Hi guys, welcome back to Retrial. For those of you who are new here, my name's Elle. I am the host of Retrial as well as the founder and CEO of the Counsel Collection, and I'm also an IP attorney. And I am joined today by three lovely ladies who are, going to be sharing their story of basically reframing not having passed the bar in the jurisdictions that they originally sat in and, transferring their UBE scores, very similar to what I did, or yeah, exactly what I did. Alrighty. So I'm going to allow my guests to introduce themselves. I'm so excited to have all of you join me. Who wants to start?
My name is Rebecca Garza. Undergrad, I went to the University of Texas and I got my Bachelor's of Science degree in political communication. And then from there, I went to Thurgood Marshall School of Law where I got my JD. And now I'm currently an assistant district attorney in Webb County.
Hi everyone, I'm Carletta Sanders-Chavers. I got my undergrad in HR from Park University in Missouri. I then went to NIU College of Law where I did a JD MBA. And I currently work in career services at a law school here in Arizona.
Thank you. Thank you. And last but not least, Jessica.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jessica Fuqua. You can call me Jess. I did my undergrad at Tennessee State University, where I got my bachelor's in biology and my MBA. And then I got my JD at Southern University Law Center. And now I'm back in Nashville as an assistant public defender.
Love it. So let's see. First question. Your law schools did your law schools, or what rather, if anything, did your law schools do to kind of expose you guys to what the bar was going to be like? So for example, when I got my JD, oh wow, holy crap, that was a lot of years ago, now that I think about it. So the school I got my JD from, New York Law School, what they did was they built in an intro to MEE, an intro to MBE course into our last year's curriculum. So we had no choice but to get a teensy bit of exposure to the bar and basically like how it would be structured. And, we'll dive into whether or not I thought that was super helpful later on down the line, but I will say that I did like being kind of forced to take certain classes and have a teensy bit more exposure. And yeah, so did each of you guys at school do anything similar to that? Let's start with Carletta.
Sure, actually, yes. So my law school did have a class that we had to take in the spring semester of our 3L year. And it was like a bar prep, bar related course. We had that, and then we also had supplemental bar prep over the summer with our professors as well. And we'll talk more about whether or not I thought it was helpful or how I, was able to take advantage or didn't take advantage of those opportunities.
Uh, Jessica.
So Southern also had the same. We had a bar prep program in the fall and spring of our 3L year. And then they also have a winter and a summer supplemental program. A perk of that program to me was they let you do Adapt-A-Bar for free. And they did have professors teaching the subjects. I guess we'll get to like overall feelings later, but those were the two components that Southern had.
And Rebecca.
So very similar to your experience. Our 3L year, we did have bar prep courses that were offered in the spring and the fall. Additionally, our 1L year, we had our final exams that were administered by each class that we were taking, but then the school would also offer or what gave us a final exam, which was all multiple choice questions on each of the subjects that we were enrolled in. So I think that was also kind of like an intro to like the MBE format because it was also like 100 questions, but like of each subject. Um, and then obviously we can dive in later as to if that was helpful or not.
Yeah, that I actually like that they did that. I wish that they had done that for us now that I think about it. But anyways, so we did have a teensy bit of exposure to, whatever the bar exam would be from law school. And for just thinking about the first time you guys were like registering, about to sit for the bar, which, like, did you guys go for any of the big three? I call them the big three: Kaplan, Barbary, or Themis, or like as your primary course? And then what, if any, supplements did you add in just that first time around?
So luckily I was a Kaplan rep, so I did use Kaplan my first go around. As far as supplements, I used Adaptabar. Um, and I really just tried to like make my own. I would use like old outlines and old flashcards, but other than that, those were the only things I used.
So I used Barbary and I also used Adaptabar as my supplemental material, which I truly like stand by. I loved Adaptabar. Um, and then I would just make outlines of each subject and the problem areas I had and rely on those as well. But other than that, just Barbary, Adaptabar, and my outlines.
I bought everything under the kitchen sink for the first time for the bar, and which we can like talk more about that as well. So I did Barbary, even though I was a Themis rep. My firm only paid for Barbary, so I had to switch and do bar prep with Barbary. I did Adaptabar. I really enjoyed the Grossman videos on Adaptabar, so I did those as well. I bought critical pass cards. I did all of the things that, people tell you you're supposed to do while you're taking the bar. So yes, spent too much money, but definitely tried to at least give it a really good first attempt. So yeah, I purchased a lot of things in addition to outlines and things of that nature. And JD Advising as well. I think I purchased a couple of things from JD Advising.
Very similar to you. I started buying up the kitchens, everything but the kitchen sink. I second that with the JD Advising. The one sheets were honestly like a game changer for me. I didn't use them quite as much as I probably should have that first time around, but let me rewind. I used Barbary as like my main course, and again, we can go into that a little bit later. But yeah, so I used Barbary as my main course, and then I ordered the some JD Advising one sheets, the Smart Bar Prep attack sheets, and also Critical Pass. And I also used Adaptabar. That's a lot of, now that I think about it, that's entirely too much stuff just trying to float in your head. And the very first time I learned what a codicil was when I was studying for the bar that first time. So it was entirely too many resources and too much stuff floating around for me. But okay, let's actually rewind a little bit. So I sat for the New York bar exam. Where did each of you guys sit for your bars?
I sat for the Texas bar.
Carletta
Illinois.
and Jessica.
Tennessee.
So, okay, we all sat in UBE jurisdictions, did not get our passing score for our jurisdiction. Let's dive into a little bit of what that was like, just that very first time when you got the results and you saw, well, New York, they say, what do they say? Unfortunately, you did not achieve a passing score on the New York bar exam, but your score might be all right for somewhere else. So, like, for me, although I knew I should not have been sitting that first time, absolutely should not have taken it. But, when you can't get your money back or anything like that, I don't like to waste money. So I figured I'd still just go for it and, maybe God looks after fools and babies, so I thought maybe he'd look after this fool. So for me, I was devastated. I cried for days, maybe even a week. And like, although I knew immediately that I was going to sit again, it was kind of hard to get back up and do it again until I got, any kind of passing score. But to rewind, what was like, just let's talk a little bit about what that first time felt like for you.
I was also devastated, even though walking out of the bar, I knew that I had not passed the bar. I just felt like I'm gonna hold out hope. Everyone says that you think you did really bad and it can turn around. But n- hindsight, right? I knew that although I followed the Barbary recommended like time, I didn't make enough time to practice thereafter. I think I was focused on so much so on consuming the information and making sure that I hit my like daily 8 hour, 9 hour mark, and that I didn't think that, oh, I need to actually implement what I'm learning. I assumed that the bar prep course would be everything that I needed to pass, and it just wasn't for me. So not only did I fail the bar, like I failed it miserably, and I was not like prepared for the score that I received, to be quite honest.
Me either. Rebecca.
So I was also devastated when I got my results back. Um, but I knew that I wanted to take it again because the first time I took it, I didn't even have a score high enough to transfer to any of the UBE states. And so, yes, I was devastated, Carletta. I relate to you so much because when I was studying for the bar the first time, I was the exact same way. Like I needed to, you took Barbary, right? Or okay. And so, there's the percentage and it like keeps going up. Like I was so focused on finishing Barbary, thinking, oh my gosh, if I finish Barbary, I'm going to pass, that I wasn't even implementing any of the material. Um, and yes, it made me, I think I failed by 11 points for Texas because Texas is 270. And I was devastated, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna like brush it off and we're gonna do it again. So still optimistic.
Oh, when I took the bar, I was just all over the place. I graduated in the fall and they had our graduation at the end of January. So I've always been the type of person, I know, right? I've always been the type of person where I have to like do everything in a certain order. So I'm thinking I'm graduating in the fall. I have to take the February test because that's what people do. They graduate, they take the test. So I signed up, I went through all of the motions, but I just wasn't okay. I was still studying for law school finals on top of trying to bar prep. Then I'm planning for graduation. I'm planning on moving from Louisiana back to Tennessee. It's a lot going on. And while I was in law school, I wasn't working, so I qualified for Medicaid. And I was like, I'm about to move back to my home state. I don't have a job lined up. I'm not going to have any insurance. I'm struggling with studying. I've always felt like I had ADHD. Why don't I go ahead and get diagnosed while I'm on Medicaid and, get some medicine and actually see if this helps me take the bar? I got on the meds, and I will say now 100% a better quality of life. But those first few months were not good for me. It was messing with how I was thinking, how I was feeling. And you just combine all of that into taking the bar. I walked out knowing that I had failed. I told my friends before I took the bar, like, I don't think I have it, guys, but it's okay. I can retake the test. I don't have a job lined up. It's low stakes right now. So when I got my email, Tennessee doesn't say congratulations or unfortunately. They're just like, the Board of Tennessee Law Examiners, blah, 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 blah. You didn't achieve the passing score. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to retest. I kind of felt relieved because it's just like, I didn't put in the effort that I needed to, so I didn't pass. So next time, if I put in the effort, I actually should pass. So, yeah, I wasn't necessarily disappointed. I wasn't happy about it, but I kind of just let it like brush off because I knew that that wasn't my test.
I love that attitude. Because even though again, I knew I should not have sat for it in the first place, I was still holding out that tiny teensy little bit of hope, delusion, I guess, that like, even though I did not feel prepared because, very similar to you guys, I was sat in front of my computer, like trying to hit that Barbary milestone percentage every day. Some days it took me, I'm sure everybody who's listening is probably going to be like, all right, girl, how many times are you going to tell us that you sat in front of your computer for like 14 hours? But that unfortunately was my reality. I sat in front of that computer miserable, trying to hit all of those milestones, not eating, not sleeping. Um, I didn't have the wherewithal to even seek getting tested for ADHD back then. And, maybe that would have saved me a whole lot of hell. But, you know, we powered through. I did not fail the New York bar exam by only a few points that first time. I failed miserably. And it wasn't until my third try that I even got anywhere close to being able to wave into anywhere. So that was that was that was very, very hard. So how how many times did it take each of you to achieve a score that could be transferable to another jurisdiction?
So I had to take it twice. So the second time I took it, I was able to attain a score where I could transfer that score to another state.
Four. So I actually just got a passing score on the last administration. I call it a passing score as a way to just acknowledge that I did pass, which has been a big thing for me going through that process. And I'm sure we'll talk more about like the feelings associated with like not receiving the score, but still receiving it high enough. So it took four times for me to actually get a passing, a transferable UBE score.
So I took the February 2025 exam. Yeah, we're still in 2025. That was a 233. And then I took the July 2025 exam and I got a 269. Tennessee is a 270 state. So we'll definitely get into that trauma of being 1 point away. But I really like what you said, Carletta, about praising your passing score because I've really been carrying that 269. Like I failed the test. I really haven't let myself process that as a win yet, but I just really appreciate that.
And, that's what I really want to focus on, like just that piece. Because if I'm being very honest, and also let me correct myself because I think I made a mistake earlier. So I took it three times before I got a transferable score. So then try four was the transferable score time. So yeah. But honestly, I still retook the bar two more times after I got that transferable score. And it's still, I'm gonna need to work through this in therapy or something because I achieved the transferable score in 2019. I refused to transfer that score. I still saw it as it doesn't matter that you can practice in other jurisdictions, you're still a failure because you did not pass where you took the exam at. New York is a 266 jurisdiction, and it didn't matter how many other times I sat for that freaking test, I could not get that 266. And it drove me freaking crazy. And even having been licensed for however many years, and even having two freaking law degrees, it stings. To this day, it stings. again, I'm unsure of why it still stings because I would say the same thing to each of you, and I would say the same thing to everybody. It's about the three letters at the end. Nobody gets a gold star. Nobody gets like, oh, here's your Esquire with distinction because you took the exam and you got 356. Like we all get the same license at the end of the day. So I want to dive into a little bit more of how you guys just decided, how you reframed it in your brains to say, you know what? It's about getting those, it's about getting that Esquire at the end of the day. And like what was that thought process like for you? Um, so for me, like I said, I kept on sitting for the exam, which was not conducive to physical or mental health whatsoever. And I really looked at it as it doesn't matter. You're a failure. So actually, let's start with you, Carletta. Let's talk about that mindset shift. How did you
Yeah.
get there?
So I had a goal of when I was studying this past time, I was like, I need a 270, right? I need to be able to move wherever I need to go. But I kept saying, and it's really funny, like when we always make jokes like, oh, be careful what you say, because like God listens. So I was like, I just need a 260, really. Like if I can at least get a 260, like I will at least be able to get barred somewhere. And I got my scores back. Of course, for Illinois, you need a 266. I got a 262. And I I told people like I've never been so happy yet so disappointed like in my life. And like those, I was feeling both of like the emotions at the same time. When I got my score back, like I was really happy, like, oh, I'm finally over the hump, like, the attorney hump, but I'm not over the Illinois hump. Like I've taken this 4 times. Like, guys, what more do you want from me? Like I've taken this test. I've done the best that I could do. Um, but I had a conversation with a friend and a professor in deciding if I was going to actually retake for the next administration. And I ultimately decided against it. But we just had conversations about if your goal is to be licensed, you've done that. If your goal is to be an attorney, you have done that. It doesn't matter where you transfer your score. At the end of the day, you will be attorney Sanders-Chavers regardless. It doesn't matter if you even decide to practice law at any point in your life. Your goal was to go to law school to become an attorney, and you have done that. So give yourself the space and like gratitude for the journey, because it was a long one. It took me 3 years. I took a year off to kind of like mentally work on some things, but it took me 3 years to actually pass the bar. Um, which is not like, abnormal to my story. It took me 3 years to also take the LSAT and like get a score good enough to get into law school as well. So it was just really about making the main thing the main thing. Like people will make you feel bad about choosing your journey. And I find too that most people actually don't understand. Most of the people who want me to be whoever they want me to be don't even practice law. I've never been to law school. Like, I'm the only lawyer they know, right? So it's like, I didn't put that, I wanted to take that pressure off me. And I felt like I had been carrying like this weight for like 3 years of like graduating and not practicing law, like not immediately going into it, being a failure to my family. Like everyone was super supportive, everyone was super invested. And the goal was to practice law, and I didn't do that. So like I was a failure. But when I really just sat down, like I prayed over my exam my last time, which I did every time, but this last time I said, God, like let this be it. Like this has to be it for me. And when I got my score back, I was like, you can't, sometimes you get exactly what you pray for. And like that is exactly what happened for me. So I just decided that I didn't want to squander like this moment. Like I'm grateful. Like I had to be graceful in that moment. Like I prayed for this. whether people will, I didn't get a fancy letter that said congratulations, but you know, when I finish transferring my score, my license will make it worth it, right? So no, I didn't get to post and say, hey, everybody, I passed with a score high enough to practice in every jurisdiction, you know, but that's not my journey, right? I can't, you know, take someone else's journey. Like my journey is to go through this, is to get barred in a different state. It's to be here with you all today, sharing that journey, because a lot of people go through that and people just, they just kind of suffer through it. They don't say anything or they just don't bring it up. Most people, some people don't even get barred, you know, because like they're too embarrassed. So I just think that we are all like graced for whatever journey we're on right now, and it's going to help somebody, and like we're always doing something to help other people. Like that's why we all became lawyers. So that was just my whole mindset shift. Like I'm going to do this and I'm going to be an attorney. It may take me 6 or 7 months, but I'm going to do it. And you know, so that was just really my mindset shift.
Yep. And I remember once I remember you sharing the score, and I'm just like, yes, because prior to this, like Carletta and I are friends, so we've been obviously not similar, but we've well not the same rather, but we've been on a similar journey, and like I've seen her journey from start to finish, and and she's seen mine, so it for me when she got that score, I'm just like, yes, I'm like cheering. Who cares? Okay, you didn't get that exact score. You're still a freaking attorney. Yay. And that wasn't the case for me. And part of it was that embarrassment and that shame. I almost allowed my good score to go stale because I refused to transfer it. I'm just like, well, who cares? You still failed. I was so embarrassed. And like, it's not even like, because I too am the first attorney in my family, and and yeah. And it's not like my family were saying, oh, you are a failure. But to me, that's how it felt. To me, I didn't achieve my goal, even though my goal was just to be an attorney. And I knew I never had to be barred in any specific jurisdiction. There was no reason other than personal interest, or I guess ego, that led me to keep retaking this exam after I got that score. It was no good reason. But I will say that other folks in law have kind of made me feel embarrassed or shameful about this being my journey. And hi, Exposure Therapy Podcast. Let's see. Let's go to you, Rebecca. What, because I love that you are just, I loved how you were just like, I am unashamed. I'm an attorney regardless. And let's get this process started. So where can I practice? Let's talk about that for you.
And it didn't start off like that. When I got my score the second time, I got a 269. So I failed Texas by a point. And I just kept telling myself, I failed again, I failed again, I failed again. And it was my mom. My mom's also an attorney. She was the one who reminded me, like, you can transfer the score. You actually have a high enough score. There's several states you could actually transfer the score out. And I remember just thinking, like, no, like, I can't. I think my situation was different because I already had this job. And it's a state job. So I needed the Texas license. And I think that's the reason why I took it again. But regardless, I went through the process of transferring my score to New Mexico. And I think once I started that process, I realized, like, I am not ashamed of this. I look at it this way. Any standardized tests, especially the bar exam, well, one, it wasn't designed for, it was designed originally for white men. It wasn't designed for people of color, or minorities, Latinas, Black folks. Like it wasn't. And so they, I, the bar examiners didn't do this UBE thing because they're trying to make things easier for people. That's not how they work. You know, the law profession is it's very competitive, and so they're not going to make our lives easier. They did this. They did this UBE thing for opportunity, and that's how I see it. Because of the UBE, we have federal prosecutors here in Laredo who are very, very good at their job. And they have licenses not from Texas, but from all over the state. And same with immigration attorneys, you know, they also come from different states too. And so it was really designed, I truly believe it was designed for opportunity. And once I saw it like that, I think my mind shifted. And I was so proud of the 269 that even when I did finally pass in Texas, I still went through the process of getting my New Mexico license. And it's something I'm really proud of. I still pay my New Mexico dues, even though I don't even practice in New Mexico. I still pay them because I'm just like, it was a journey to get here, and that was part of my journey. I also have my New Mexico license up here in my office because, you know, I'm no longer ashamed of it. So when I have like private bar people come in and they always ask, what's the New Mexico thing about? I tell them, and that's like a conversation starter for me. And I realized that by opening up to them, you know, there are so many well-seasoned attorneys who also had to take the bar exam multiple times. And it doesn't matter. Even if you take it, if you have to take it once or if you have to take it 5 times, like you're an attorney and you pass because you're meant to be an attorney. And I know so many judges also here in Laredo who had to take it multiple times. I believe Michelle Obama also had to take it more than once. I want to say Hillary Clinton, I'm not entirely sure, but and so it's really nothing to be ashamed of. It did take me a while to switch that mindset, but once I did, I was, you know, I was so happy with myself. And I am very comfortable with sharing my story because it does relate to a lot of people. It's just sometimes people, you know, they're scared to talk about it. And so when you open that door, you realize, wow, there are a lot of people who have similar stories, which is a great thing. I think the UBE is phenomenal, and I'm so happy they implemented it because all it's creating is more opportunity. And I love it and I stand by it.
I really love that attitude shift. And Lord knows I wish I had had that years ago. Would have saved me some money and some mental sanity, honey. Now, Miss Jessica.
So scores just came out for Tennessee in October. So I'm still in the middle of, grieving through my score. It was actually a bunch of my friends and like professors who were like, well, I'm telling you, congratulations, you didn't fail. Like, you're still an attorney. And it's been really hard for me to put that label on myself. I too had a state job. I was blessed to have a job this go around. Um, but now it's like I actually like my job. I like being at home. I want to stay here. So I immediately signed up for the next test. My job is going to be fortunate enough to give me a month off paid to study. So hopefully it's going to work out. But I think now the shift is happening because I'm going to court every other day and I'm seeing how people practice. And I'm like, if y'all passed, there's no way that I can't pass, or there's no way that I should feel beneath you or smaller, or like I'm the only one here cosplaying because everybody else is nervous, everybody else is still figuring it out. And I'm really taking a lot from this call. Like, I really am an attorney. I'll introduce myself to clients as the attorney, and I'll feel so guilty. It's like, well, you're not yet. But really, I am. I need to trust myself more and my capabilities more. And I really need to be proud of the score because regardless, just the 37-point jump, I haven't even let myself like be happy about that. And that is something to really be proud of because the bar is hard. I don't care. I know people are clowning Kim Kardashian right now, but I'm just like, the bar is hard. It's a really hard test. And if you pass it the first time, great. If it takes you a long time, I'm right there rooting with you because it's a hard test.
Manifesting an appearance from Miss Kardashian herself because hello, I I I I want people to, yeah, I 100% agree with everything you just said. Like it's the clowning and the, oh, but you failed. It's just like, okay. And I'm so happy that you're taking something from this call because I mean, that's the goal, right? I sat miserable. This whole process, that was my 12.89th reason why. And I would hate for, I hate that other people are experiencing that and feeling like you're cosplaying. You're not. And in some ways, not being grateful for the scores that we did have and the ability to be able to transfer a score, in some ways, that's a little ungrateful when you think about it. Because, some people don't make it into law school at all. Some people flunk out. Some people just quit. Some people never even sit for the bar. So to even be able to sit and just have the resilience, that's something to be congratulated and that's something to be applauded. And I want more people to kind of just talk about it. Again, I keep on saying this, it's exposure therapy for me because I did not see enough people talking about it. And so I thought I was on Failure Island, Party of One, with my little football or basketball, talking about Wilson. I genuinely thought it was just me, and I was just so, I was embarrassed, I was ashamed, I was just so sad. And it's just like, it does not have to be that. I would never tell people, the things that I said or thought about myself. And, you know, how 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 can we get more people to be a part of this conversation? That's just the goal. Because again, mental health is a real thing, people. We could choose to allow this exam to drive us crazy. We can choose to see it as a failure, but why? So let's dive into, well, let me rephrase that. Carletta and Jessica, have you guys, and you don't have to share the exact jurisdiction if you know, but like, have you decided, whether or not you will transfer the score? And if you have, which jurisdiction will you go to? Like, you don't have to announce the jurisdiction, but like, have you chosen one?
Yeah, I can start. So I don't have a problem with it. I am going to go into Alabama as well as Missouri, just for its proximity to Illinois. Should I decide to move back there, Alabama for personal reasons. My grandmother's from Alabama. My grandmother turns 80 this year. So it means a lot to her. And I know it will mean a lot to her to have her granddaughter be an attorney in the place where, a lot of her family were sharecroppers, where, their land was stolen from them. So I think it's very important. It's like a full circle moment, not just for me, but for my family. So, I opted to get barred there, regardless of whether or not I practice there or not.
Jessica?
I always wanted to move to New York. I actually applied for some public defender jobs in New York while I was still in law school. So I do want to wave into New York. I still just need to take the leap and like start getting things moving. But when I told my mentor that I made a 269, she was like, well, now you can go to New York. So now this is probably my segue into New York.
And Rebecca, what made you choose New Mexico? Like, was there anything other than its proximity to Texas?
Strictly proximity. Um, I knew it would be easy to go over there if I needed to get sworn in. And I just knew that if I had that license, then I could still live in Texas, but just do either federal work, immigration, in-house counsel. And so, but I mainly chose it for proximity.
I chose Minnesota out of, well, honestly, because I almost allowed my score to go stale, some of the other jurisdictions that I would have been able to waive into had time constraints as far as the amount of months that they'll accept a score. And basically, I was down to the wire and only had about 3 options at that point based on the amount of time that I waited. And Alabama was one of my options. Minnesota was the other option. And I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna close my eyes and eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And I eeny, meeny, miny, moed on over to Minnesota. And I like that you, Rebecca, I like that you were just as proud to still go to your ceremony and celebrate it. I kept it quiet. I g- I didn't post when I got sworn in. I didn't celebrate, and it was kind of still this whole, oh, I'm still embarrassed. I swept it under the rug kind of thing. And I didn't even change like my thing on LinkedIn or anything to Esquire until damn near a year after I'd gotten sworn in because again, hello, work this out in therapy, ma'am. But like, I don't know. It still felt a little like a sting. And I think I'm probably going to celebrate now, but I didn't celebrate. Nobody even knows when I got sworn in, probably. Like nobody knows. I just one day randomly, one of my friends had asked me, "Well, how come your LinkedIn still says, JD, didn't you get sworn in like last year?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Okay, so when you gonna change it?" And I'm like, "You know what? You are absolutely right. I got the 3 letters that I worked so hard for." So, I sincerely hope that when you guys, Jessica and Carletta, wave in, that y'all scream that shit for Lord, that y'all scream from the freaking rooftops and it's something that deserves to be celebrated. I think it's actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's a little sad that I don't celebrate because that's an achievement that nobody in my family has, a lot of the people around me have not achieved. People generally don't come from the Bronx, inner New York City, and make it as far as I've made it. People generally don't come from circumstances that I've come from and make it and achieve those 3 letters. So I think I'm going to celebrate with my upcoming lawyerversary for sure. And I really want the two of you, Jessica and Carletta, to take from, maybe necessarily don't take from my story because, like I said, I didn't celebrate. But I want you guys to take this and be freaking proud because I'm proud of the both of you. And y'all deserve to be proud of yourselves. And everyone who's watching, you deserve to be proud of yourself. This is an achievement nonetheless. It doesn't matter how many times it took you to get there or how you get there. The game changer for me in deciding to actually wave in instead of letting my scores go stale was a really good friend of mine, Caroline. I will always give her her flowers. Um, Basically, we were talking, and I was getting ready to sit for the last time that I sat in 2021, and she's like, "So, why are you retaking the exam if you've got, a transferable score?" And I'm like, "Oh, because I failed." And she's like, "So basically what I'm hearing you say is you're standing outside of the club and you're about to let your pass expire and you don't want to go sit down because you can't sit in the section that you want to sit in? Does that make sense?" I'm like, I mean, I did not like when she put it that way. I did not like hearing it. But I'm like, you know something? That makes so much sense. And it was at that moment that I decided, even before I had sat for that last time, it doesn't matter what this is gonna look like. I'm gonna do something with my score before it goes stale. And like that was the click for me. And that's what I want everybody else to take from this. It does not matter if your goal is, like y'all said, if your goal is to be an attorney, you've got that goal. You've met that goal. You hit it already. It just does not look like what you want it to look like. And once you're barred for a number of years, you can then waive in elsewhere without even having to sit for another exam. So just I want everybody to kind of just reframe this quote unquote failure. Like, is it a failure? Not really. So let's see. What else did I want to touch on? I think we hit it all. What is there anything else that you guys would like to kind of toss in?
I think just going back to studying for the bar, because I know we really didn't get into much like detail on it. So I remember the first time I took the bar, I was doing a lot of passive learning. And so that's essentially, you buy the Barbary course or Kaplan or Themis, whatever, and you're just like watching all the videos. And the videos it's pretty much like a lecture, and they're teaching you about all the subjects that are going to be on the bar. I did a lot of passive learning the first time because I wanted to make sure I hit all those videos. I wanted to make sure that the completion percentage kept going up. And I realized that how I learned the most was active learning, which was taking practice questions, practice essays, practice MEEs. And it wasn't until the second time and third time that I sat for the bar that I realized that I didn't necessarily need to be watching these videos. What I needed to do was just start timing myself, start doing all these questions. And then when you get stuck on a certain subject, I had an outline for each subject. And so if there was a part of a subject that I just didn't understand and I kept getting that question wrong, I would write down the reasoning for why a certain answer was correct. And so then I started utilizing those outlines and to memorize what I needed to know. And I think for whoever, has or did take the exam multiple times, you kind of start to realize what works for you and what doesn't. Because the first time around, I couldn't even tell you if, I thought what I was doing was perfect, and it clearly wasn't. And so I think, yeah, it's one of those things where as you study more, you kind of realize what's going to work and what's going to help you prepare efficiently and effectively for the bar exam.
Yes, that's what I wanted to add in. Yes. So thank you for touching on that because that was the game changer for me as well. It wasn't until I stopped sitting and trying to hit every single goalpost rather, and actually learned because I was not learning. Sure, I was ticking off all the boxes, but I didn't learn a thing. Well, I learned what a codicil was, but but I learned nothing. And it wasn't until I implemented some of those same strategies. I actually abandoned Barbary like I didn't see real change and progress until I adhered to how I learned and stopped trying to follow. Because, they tell us all, you must stick to the schedule. You must do this. Don't deviate. If you deviate, you will fail. But that deviation is the only thing that got me over the hump. So, what what, if anything, did you, Carletta, and you, Jessica, add in to your routines or take out from your study routines or like habits? What did y'all add in or take out that kind of pushed you over this next hump to where you could get barred somewhere?
I ditched the schedule as well. I just didn't like being boxed into you have to do it this way or you're gonna pass. I actually started like an accountability group with other people who were taking the bar and some people who were taking the MCAT. And I really just wanted us to focus more on self-care because to me, the first time, like my mental health was just down. So the second time, I made sure I was going to the gym. I made sure that I was reading because I felt like my reading comprehension was off. So I tried to do pleasure reading, actually read books that I was into. And it really helped me like switch it over to the MEEs where I was able to get through passages without just feeling drained. And I do think that it's more about practice. And a lot of statistics go towards people who usually pass the bar that they were taking old bar exams, they were writing out essays and doing different things. So I always tell people like bar prep companies are there to make money. They want to have you stressed out, but you just can't use them as like your Bible to get through the test.
So I also started to not memorize old tests, but I would look for similarities. So I would look for if I'm going to talk about a specific thing in property, I would look to see, okay, so how are they writing the rules? If I can figure out how to understand the black letter law, I can then do my analysis. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. I stopped memorizing like the law and started trying to figure out how to apply it within the questions. And then I would read my outlines nightly and I would explain them to my family, which is my wife and my 6-year-old, to see if they understood it. Because if they could understand like what I was saying, I knew that I was explaining it like thoroughly, and also kind of focus on for whatever reason, the first couple of times I was like, oh, I need to write like a lawyer. Like I have to write these specific things. The last time I took the bar, I wanted to write as if I was speaking to a client. So that way they understood what I was, trying to get across in each of the essays. So of course, like remembering some buzzwords, but being able to explain them and not just, simply saying the law and moving on. So like that was the biggest thing for me was just really trying to figure out how to apply because I had all of this like knowledge in my head. Obviously, how do I take it out of my head and give it to a person that has never like seen the law, heard of the law? Because that's what I would be doing as an attorney. So how do I start on that? And that really helped me. So I was really happy about seeing that difference, and much like Jessica, from like start to finish, I think I had like a 35-point increase in like all of my scores. So again, like Jessica, I know me and you sat for the same one. We just got scores back in October, but like that is like a really big accomplishment. And like people will say, oh, it's just 1 point. No, it literally took me 35 points to get here, right? So like you did amazing. And I know it is something like there's something to be said about grieving the experience that you thought like you deserved, right? From like doing all of this hard work. And I wanted to be there. I watched everyone get sworn in on November 5th and having to explain to my family like, okay, we're going to do something different, right? We are going to have our separate sworn in. It's going to be private. This is what that looks like. But grieve it, like feel the feels, but know that your studying got you to where you are. And like if you can get a 269, you'll get a 270, and like you're gonna pass this next time. In Texas, right? Because I mean in Tennessee, because you've already passed, right? There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. Like you've already passed. But yeah, off on a tangent, but like that's what I did. I focused on applying the law instead of just trying to memorize it because it wasn't helping me. I tried to memorize it 3 times and it didn't work. So applying the law, like understanding the law, that was the biggest shift for me.
Same, I second that. I would actually weave in to my leisure time. I would watch my Law and Order and be like, that is that I see that that's definitely hearsay. And then I would think, okay, well, what is hearsay? Don't get me to lying about knowing all of the exceptions and exemptions and blah 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 blah. But it I made it more digestible and actually applied it to real life in a real life way. And that again, that was about the only thing that got me over the hump. And again, piggybacking off of what you just said, I really, really, really hope that you're freaking proud of yourselves. Like, it's no easy feat. And I know it's still fresh and, I know it still stings, but don't be like me and let it sting for years. That doesn't make sense. It's not healthy either. And, you know, even if you don't feel the proudest of yourself right now, just know I'm proud of y'all. And listen, if like you said, if you got that score, you can get the next one. But this is not a failure. It is not a failure whatsoever. Like the win just looks differently than how you anticipated and how you wanted it to come. That doesn't mean that it's any less of a win. Now, any any final like what would be your top 2 3 tips that you'll give to people who are similarly situated, who just got their results and they're just like, okay, well, I don't know if I'm going to wave in. I feel so terrible. Or similar to me, deciding whether or not to wave in because they're embarrassed. What do you guys have? Like, what would you like to say to those folks?
Okay, my 3 things. My first one would be congratulations. I really appreciate it when people told me congratulations, and I was like, oh, I failed. No, congratulations. You did pass somewhere. You're an attorney somewhere. My second thing would be this is your path and your journey. It's different from everybody else's, and that's okay. And my third thing, just be proud of yourself. Even if it's hard, like give yourself a hug because it's a hard test. You sat through it, you took it. And you deserve a win for that.
Okay, so the first thing I'd probably say is if you want to feel sad, give yourself 24 hours just to feel sad. You're allowed 24 hours. I give myself a day.
Not 24 months like me.
um, thing number 2 is just, after you had your moment to be sad, figure out what you want to do next. If you do already have that score to transfer out, get on the ball with that. If you feel like you want to transfer out and maybe try one more time for your home state, do that, but come up with a plan. And then third thing is just to continue to be kind to yourself. Listen to your body too. I think the second and third time around when I did take the exam, I listened to my body. So if I was tired, I would take a nap. I made sure my sleep schedule was in order. My sleep hygiene was so important to me. I wasn't staying up late studying. I would study during the day and I'd be in bed by 9 or 10. And so just having if you're kind to yourself and if you listen to your body and you're intuitive with it, I think it'll make for more productive study sessions down the road, if they decide to take the bar exam again. And so I think that's what also just helped me so much the second and third time. I didn't isolate like at all. I still was able to be with family, but also portion out a good chunk of my day to study.
I agree with everyone. I'm gonna say transfer the score, and then that way you're pressure free. Like whatever you decide to do after that, like that is plus, right? At that point, you know, it's low stakes. You're already, going somewhere. You're already gonna be an attorney. Transfer the score. Let go of the shame, right? And so my dad's a bishop for most people like that don't know. So like I am a very churchy person. So I always and I have to continuously tell myself, right? Don't let the win, W-E-N, affect the win, W-I-N, right? So like you can't allow that to change your journey, right? Celebrate. Like I am definitely planning to have a party. I love a good a good soiree. So I am definitely planning on having something because I'm originally from Mississippi. So having something for my family, for myself, right? Because it's for myself. Do it for you. Whatever that looks like for you, do it. But don't let it affect the win because you still won, right? You still won at the end of the day. Doesn't matter if the score was tied into the fourth quarter in the last second, and you and you shoot it like okay, it's not a three, but it's a layup and you won, right? So don't let that affect it. Like that is still a win for you. That is a win for, your family. That is a win for liberation. Like that is a win for a lot of people, and you have to continue um to fight the fight because there are so many people's like destinies like attached to like your ability to like accept the win, right? You ladies are doing amazing work. Thankfully, I didn't have the pressure of I would lose my job this time if I didn't pass. I lost my job the second time I took the bar. So, like this time, that pressure was gone. But I truly believe that there are so many people's destinies attached to the win that I just received. And I'm not going to, belabor that. I'm not going to sit in that for too long. Like I have a mission. I'm here for a reason. I got to get to that. Like it didn't feel good when I got that 262, but at the end of the day, like I'm not going to let the win affect my win. And like I think people need to really just sit in it, give yourself those 24 hours. Like Rebecca said, if you're feeling a little bit more sad, give yourself 48. Like that's okay. But when you're done, like you have to get to it, whatever you decide, whatever you have decided in that moment, get to it and stick with it because it's going to happen. You just have to believe in yourself and make sure like that you are living with like no regrets. Like I don't feel bad about like not resitting for the bar. Right. My professor told me like no decision you make today is permanent. Like you can decide today that you are not going to sit for the bar ever again. And in 5 years from now, if you're like, you know what, I really want to sit for Illinois, like you have that option. So no decision that you are making, after that, obviously transfer the score, but other decisions to retake or not, that's not a permanent decision. You can always change your mind.
What did you guys also have like a passing MPRE score at the time of well, for Jessica and Carletta, do you guys have an MPRE score that is, good for whichever jurisdictions you're gonna wave into? Or is that also something that you guys are gonna have to overcome? So for me, my MPRE score went stale. By the time I decided I was going to wave in. So then that became another hump that would have kind of not been a thing if I had just gone ahead and waved when I was supposed to do so. But do you guys still have that hump?
I have a passing NPRE score that can go, but It just depends on what state it is because I know for Tennessee, like they only hold on to scores for every 2 years. So when I originally took my NPRE, I want to say I took it the summer of 1L year. I don't know. I just tried to be super duper fast and I took professional responsibility that summer and wanted to take the August test. But that score expired that I needed for the February test. So this is my second NPRE score. Um, and if I do transfer it, I would just probably go ahead and do it now because I know that it's probably going to be on the chopping block if that state has like a 2 year window.
My score expired for Alabama 2 months. So I missed it shy of 2 months. So I am gonna have to retake the NPRE in the next administration, obviously, because the November date has passed. And I'm in good spirits about it, right? I would much rather retake the NPRE than retake the bar. So I am okay in terms of that. The good thing about waiving in, you are still able to submit your application without your NPRE score. And you can then just upload your NPRE score once you have completed it. But thankfully, Missouri does not have an expiration date for NPRE. So I am able to go ahead and waive into Missouri.
And Rebecca.
I didn't have issues with my NPRE because I think I was so quick to just even like transferring, and then I took the when I submitted my application for New Mexico to get licensed there, I took the bar exam one more time in Texas, which I luckily passed, and so I didn't have any issues with the NPRE expiring or anything like that. But it's so interesting talking about the NPRE because I know people who passed the bar exam the first time, but had to take the NPRE multiple times, and so it's just our brains work differently. I think for the NPRE, I really didn't have to study too much. And so I didn't see it as this huge hurdle, but for others it is, and that's okay because the bar exam was a huge hurdle for me. So we all struggle in different ways, and that's okay. That is completely okay.
Yes, and the struggle is not always pretty, but we all made it on the other side of the biggest hurdle. And again, even though it may not look anything like we envisioned. I know my attorney journey looked, how old am I now? 34. 14-year-old Elle, even 24-year-old Elle would not imagine this journey having turned out how it turned out. But that's okay. It is okay because it makes for one hell of a testimony. And I appreciate all of y'all coming on and being vulnerable and, sharing you guys' experience. And I hope that the next crop of attorneys, I hope that the next batch of folks who, got that not technically passed for their jurisdiction, but I hope y'all can still see it as the win that it is. It does not have to look how you envisioned it. And I know Carletta, you mentioned your dad was a bishop. And there's a saying, I don't know if you other ladies are religious, spiritual, whatever, but there's a saying that if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. I personally have learned you're not getting no more laughs off of me, buddy. I'm just gonna be quiet. I don't have the plan. I don't have it figured out, and that is okay because very obviously I am not supposed to. I saw something on one of the socials where it's like a lot of the heartache and the shame and the guilt and the blah 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 anxiety, it comes from us kind of treating God like the assistant when he's the manager. And I kind of wish I had heard that years ago. But either way, everything does not have to go according to your plan. It's not about your plan. That doesn't mean that there's more than one way to skin a cat. as my other friend would say. So skin the freaking cat, y'all. Okay? Take your win. It doesn't have to look as pretty and tied up neatly wrapped in a bow as you envisioned it. But that's not it, that doesn't make it any less of a win. It's the attitude that makes it less of a win. And we have 4 shiny, beautiful examples of that win. It does not look like how we envisioned it, but I personally would not trade this journey for the world. And it's made me the attorney I am. It's made me the person, the family member, the partner, the auntie, the sister, whatever. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wish it had been a little easier, but it is what it is. And I really hope that everybody kind of just takes from this and just give yourself grace. It's okay that it doesn't look how you wanted it to look. It's still a win, and I'm still proud of all of us. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining, and see you guys on the next episode.